It was just after 5 p.m. on a quiet Monday in Sydney when a text lit up Teresa Marsden's phone. I love you. I'm sorry. I'm not happy. Her daughter, Renee, had sent the message and then gone silent. Frantic calls, no answers. A desperate search through the fading light. By nightfall, police would find Renee's car parked at the edge of a notorious cliff. But what really happened that day? Who or what pushed her to that breaking point? The truth wasn't just tragic. It was twisted beyond imagination. If you're a fan of true crime and criminal investigations, you won't want to miss our new book, The Ultimate Book of Serial Killers: 180 Files of the World's Most Notorious Murderers, now available on Amazon. You can also purchase the PDF version directly from our website for instant download. You'll find the link in the video description and in a pinned comment. Now, let's dive into today's case. Renee Marsden was born on October 15, 1992 in Sydney, New South Wales, a vibrant metropolis known for its stunning harbor and iconic opera house. She was the daughter of Teresa and Jaime. But when Renee was just 2 years old, her parents separated. Life changed course once again when Teresa met a man named Mark Marsden. By the time Renee was 6, she and her mother had moved in with Mark, and in the year 2000, Teresa and Mark were married. Together, they built a new family. Teresa and Mark had 3 more children: Luke, Jake, and Monique, Renee's younger half-siblings. The household was described as close-knit and affectionate, where Renee thrived surrounded by the warmth of a loving family. Her bond with her mother Teresa was particularly strong. When she turned 18, Renee made a significant decision. She legally adopted the last name Marsden, taking on the surname of the man who had raised her. At that point in her life, Renee was a bright and outgoing young woman, known for her cheerful personality, kindness, and infectious smile. Friends and family described her as warm-hearted and socially active, someone who left a positive mark wherever she went. Renee had maintained a long-standing friendship with a girl named Camilla Sidan, a classmate from her early school years. However, their relationship grew increasingly complicated during adolescence. Tensions rose, and there were instances of conflict, some even physical. Renee confided in her mother that Camilla had once pulled her hair and struck her, a moment that left her afraid. Despite this, the complexities of their friendship persisted. Camilla was known to be possessive, particularly with Renee. Over time, whispers surfaced about a brief romantic involvement between the two, but nothing was ever confirmed officially. Eventually, their bond weakened, but the distance didn't last forever. Years later, the two reconnected and grew close once again. As Renee stepped into adulthood, she pursued training as both a receptionist and a hairdresser, eventually dedicating herself to the latter. She was described as diligent, joyful, and eager about her future. She even shared plans of moving out to live with a cousin. Her life appeared to be unfolding with optimism and clear goals. Around 2008, while working at a beauty salon, Renee met a young man named Angus Jong. He had been drawn in not just by the salon's services, but by Renee herself. His visits became frequent under the pretense of regular haircuts. Their connection deepened, and soon they began dating. Their relationship was passionate and fast-moving. The couple even created a written contract outlining their future together, 4 children and a Labrador. Angus would later recall those days as the best of his life. But in April 2010, their romance hit a devastating turn. Renee discovered a series of text messages that hinted at a possible betrayal. Angus denied any infidelity, but Renee, hurt and heartbroken, chose not to believe him. She ended the relationship, a decision that left her emotionally shattered. Weeks passed, and Renee was still visibly distressed. Then came an unexpected twist. Camilla, noticing her friend's emotional pain, offered a solution. She told Renee she wanted to introduce her to someone, a 24-year-old man named Braden Spittery. According to Camilla, she had dated Braden long ago, but their relationship had ended and they had remained on friendly terms. That was enough for Renee. She didn't question it. Camilla showed Renee a photograph of her with Braden, and Renee expressed interest. Shortly after, Camilla provided Braden's phone number and social media handles. From there, a new chapter began, one built entirely through messages and digital affection. Though the couple had never met in person, their online romance blossomed quickly. Then, tragedy struck, or so Renee believed. Braden claimed he had been in a horrific motorcycle accident in which his best friend, who had been riding as a passenger, died. He further explained that due to his involvement in the crash, he had been sentenced to 2 years in prison. Still, Braden insisted that his wealthy family had managed to smuggle a phone into the facility, allowing him to continue texting her regularly, although phone calls and visits were off limits. He claimed he had voluntarily given up visitation rights to receive a lighter sentence. To Renee, this seems strange, but love can cloud even the clearest logic. Despite never hearing his voice or seeing him in person, she clung to the digital companionship that had lifted her from heartbreak. In 2011, Renee finally opened up to her mother Teresa about her relationship with Braden. Although Teresa was uneasy about her daughter dating someone who claimed to be in prison, her discomfort faded when she saw how genuinely happy Renee appeared. Seeing her daughter light up when she talked about Braden gave Teresa a reason to support the relationship, even if her instincts told her something didn't feel right. However, that support was quickly put to the test. One day, Teresa messaged Renee on social media, but to her surprise, the reply didn't come from her daughter. It was Braden who answered. Teresa found the intrusion unsettling. She replied firmly, saying she didn't wish to speak with him, but with Renee. It was then she discovered that her daughter had given Braden full access to her personal account. That raised red flags. Things became even more tense when Teresa liked a photo of Angus, Renee's ex-boyfriend, on social media. Braden immediately sent her accusatory messages, questioning her loyalty and even suggesting she was a poor mother for maintaining any virtual contact with Angus. The relationship between Renee and Braden lasted for about 18 months. During that time, their connection intensified. They began making plans to marry as soon as he was released from prison. At 20 years old, Renee was dreaming of her wedding day. She told friends and family that Braden was her soulmate. In January 2012, so convinced was she of their future together, Renee went to a tattoo parlor with Camilla and had Braden's name inked across her chest. But soon after, things started to unravel. Braden's behavior shifted. He became increasingly jealous and possessive. Renee, once joyful and open, grew distant and uneasy. Still, when Braden told her that he would be released in August that year, her hope was rekindled. But when the date arrived and he wasn't released, Renee was devastated. According to sources close to her, the emotional weight was so heavy that she reportedly attempted to take her own life by overdosing on pills. It was a terrifying moment for her family. Teresa and Mark saw how fragile she had become and encouraged her to end the relationship. Renee eventually agreed. She decided to walk away from the relationship with Braden and rebuild her life. Shortly after, she started dating a coworker named Ian, a man 12 years her senior. The relationship seemed promising until once again, Braden's presence resurfaced. Ian began receiving threatening messages from him, and he wasn't willing to tolerate it. He warned Renee that she needed to cut all ties with her ex once and for all. But Renee couldn't let go. She still believed Braden was the love of her life. She ended things with Ian and chose, once again, to stay in contact with Braden. On the morning of Monday, August 5th, 2013, everything appeared normal on the surface. Renee got up, went about her usual routine, and headed to work. She returned home in the early afternoon just like any other day. But Teresa noticed something was off. Her daughter seemed withdrawn, irritable, and emotionally distant. Concerned, she asked if everything was all right. Renee simply said yes and retreated to her bedroom. A short while later, Teresa received a chilling message from Braden. He told her to look after her daughter, claiming that Renee had made threats to harm herself. Alarmed, Teresa rushed to her room. When she showed her the message, Renee acknowledged it, but told her not to worry. She said things with Braden were over. Later that evening, Teresa checked in again and found Renee getting ready, doing her makeup. She said she was going out to dinner with friends from work, just to distract herself and clear her mind. Teresa, though uneasy, accepted the explanation. What came next shattered her world. Around 5 p.m., Teresa received a text from Renee. It was a message no parent should ever receive. Her daughter told her she loved her, apologized, and confessed that she wasn't truly happy. Panic set in. Teresa called her daughter repeatedly, but Renee didn't answer. Desperate, she rushed to the home of one of Renee's close friends and shared the message. The friend suggested they alert the police immediately. Teresa didn't hesitate. Authorities were notified, and they began tracking Renee's phone in an effort to locate her. As night fell, no updates came. The silence was unbearable. In search of answers, Teresa called Camila, hoping she might know something. Camila admitted she had received a strange message from Renee as well, one that said she loved her and was sorry. When Camila asked what was happening, Teresa revealed that Renee hadn't come home and was missing. Camila responded that she would go look for her. Along with her mother, she picked up Teresa, and together they searched places where Renee might have gone, but every location was empty. Later that evening, around 9 p.m., police called with an update. They had found Renee's car parked near a cliffside area in Sydney. Teresa and Mark rushed to the scene. Upon arrival, they began calling out for her in the darkness, hoping against hope for a response. For 2 hours they scoured the surroundings, clinging to the possibility that she might still be nearby. Eventually, with no sign of her, they returned home, but not for long. At first light on August 6th, they were back at the cliff's edge, determined to find their daughter. This time, Teresa noticed something chilling: a pair of shoes left near the edge of the cliff. They were unmistakably her daughter's. She bent down and picked them up, overwhelmed by emotion. But before she could process what she was holding, a nearby police officer took the shoes from her hands, placed them back where they had been found, and asked her to step away from the scene. By then, authorities were convinced of what had happened. Renee, they believed, had ended her life at that very spot, just as others tragically had before her. The cliff was known for such acts. Officers gently encouraged the Marsdens to go home, explaining their belief that Renee had made a permanent decision. No body was ever recovered. But surveillance footage from a nearby camera seemed to confirm the theory. In the video, Renee can be seen approaching the fence at the cliff's edge. She crosses over it, walks slowly to the precipice, then backs away. She appears to send a series of messages from her phone, throws the device out of frame, and then walks again toward the edge, disappearing from view. It was a devastating revelation, one too painful for her family to accept. The thought that Renee had been so broken that she saw no other way out was unimaginable. Teresa and Mark, grief-stricken and desperate for answers, blamed one person, Braden. They sent him a message, holding him responsible for the torment and despair that had consumed their daughter, but he never replied. Left with no other option, they turned to the only person who had known Braden in real life, Camilla Seiden. When questioned, Camilla gave them a strange response. She said that Braden too was suffering. This puzzled Teresa. How did Camilla know that? Camilla claimed that Braden had called her, but the story felt off, suddenly inconsistent. When Teresa asked her to give the phone number to the police, Camilla's demeanor changed instantly. She became agitated and started saying bizarre things. Then, in a shocking twist, she accused Renee of being violent and manipulative, stating that she had been the victim all along, that her daughter had needed psychological help. Meanwhile, police continued their investigation. Renee's phone had vanished. She had thrown it into the ocean that day, but inside her parked car, they found something else. Alongside a collage of photos featuring Braden, they discovered Renee's previous cell phone, which she had replaced just a couple of months before her disappearance. Officers returned it to her parents with her other belongings, unaware it would soon become the key to unraveling everything. Luke, Renee's 13-year-old brother, had a friend with some tech skills. Together, they managed to access the old device using a software tool. What they found was astonishing. More than 11,000 text messages exchanged over a 3-month span, from March to June of 2013. There were messages between Renee and Braden, as well as between Renee and Camilla. Mark, determined to make sense of the data, started analyzing the messages. He created a spreadsheet and began cross-referencing the times and dates. That's when something strange emerged. Messages from Camilla and messages from Braden never overlapped. They were always sequential, never simultaneous. A horrifying realization took shape. Mark brought the evidence to the police. Investigators quickly confirmed what he suspected. The messages from Braden and Camilla had originated from 2 different phones, but from the same building, the same address. Yet Braden had supposedly been incarcerated 2 hours away from Sydney. The truth finally came out. Braden never existed. He was a fabrication, an elaborate deception created and sustained entirely by Camilla. For 18 months, Camilla had manipulated Renee through a fake identity, using 2 separate phones to maintain the illusion. Why would someone go to such extreme lengths? What could possibly motivate a person to emotionally torment someone they called a best friend? Family members, friends, and others close to the 2 young women began to speak out. Many recalled Camilla's obsessive behavior, how she would call Renee repeatedly, sometimes up to 20 times in under an hour. In the months leading up to her death, Renee had started to distance herself from Camilla. She confided in Teresa that she was tired of the emotional manipulation, of the constant dominance Camilla tried to exert, so she decided to end their friendship once and for all. The final act may have been Camilla's revenge. On August 5, 2013, the very day Renee vanished, Camilla sent one final message to her, once again pretending to be Braden. The message was brief and devastating. He was ending the relationship. That digital heartbreak triggered a chain of 91 messages exchanged between them that day. Messages investigators later confirmed, but their content remains a mystery to this day. What is known is that Renee, in a moment of desperation and confusion, called the prison where she believed her boyfriend was incarcerated. But unsurprisingly, there was no record of any inmate named Braden. No one by that name existed in the system. As the Marsden family and the police continued to piece together the timeline of events, their focus returned to Camilla. When first confronted, she denied any involvement. But the mountain of digital evidence, the message logs, the phone records, the surveillance footage, began closing in. Still, Camilla had taken steps to cover her tracks. She destroyed the phone and SIM card used to impersonate Braden, making it nearly impossible to recover key conversations, especially those exchanged on the day Renee took her own life. Despite the technological obstacles, law enforcement ultimately reached a disturbing conclusion. Camilla had manipulated and psychologically abused Renee by creating and maintaining a fictional persona over a prolonged period, a practice now widely known as catfishing. But at the time in Australia, there were no laws that defined or criminalized this form of identity deception. Because she hadn't extorted Renee or financially benefited from the deception, prosecutors were unable to formally charge her with a crime. It was a devastating blow for the Marsdens, who refused to accept that someone could so methodically destroy another person's life and walk away without consequences. Mark and Teresa Marsden began campaigning to have the case reopened. After 7 painful years, their persistence paid off. In 2020, authorities agreed to hold a formal forensic inquest. Camilla was granted immunity in exchange for the truth, but she remained cold, uncooperative, and unmoved. She admitted she had pretended to be Braden, but claimed it was a character she and Renee had created together, an invented boyfriend they supposedly shared. The claim was as bizarre as it was offensive. During the inquest, investigators presented the first message Renee had received on August 5th, the one that ended the relationship. Forensic experts testified that this message, sent under Braden's name, was likely the final emotional blow that pushed Renee toward her tragic decision. Then came a haunting piece of history. A school-era email written by Camilla to Renee was read aloud in court. In it, Camilla professed a suffocating, obsessive love. She said she was too in love and would chase her if she ever tried to leave. The email painted a chilling portrait of emotional control that had begun years before the catfishing ever started. Despite acknowledging the immense harm Camilla had inflicted, the court concluded that under existing laws, she could not be criminally charged. Her actions, while cruel and psychologically abusive, didn't fall under any specific offense as written in Australian legislation at the time. The outcome sparked outrage, not just from Renee's family, but from members of the public who followed the case. Camilla, they discovered, had since married, had children, changed her appearance, and continued to live nearby, sometimes running into Mark and Teresa in local supermarkets and public places as if nothing had happened. Still, the Marsdens pressed on. They transformed their grief into advocacy, pushing for legal reform that would protect others from enduring the kind of psychological abuse that had claimed their daughter's life. Eventually, the truth about the photos Camilla had used to portray Braden came to light. They belonged to a man named Cameron Lang. After the story became public, he recognized his image on the news and spoke out. He didn't know Camilla at all. He believed the photo had been taken years earlier, maybe during a night out at a bar or a club. Somehow, she had taken that fleeting moment and turned it into a persona used to deceive and control her best friend. Renee Marsden's story is not just a case of deception. It's a chilling reminder of how trust can be twisted and how digital manipulation can become emotional abuse. In a world where online relationships are increasingly common, her death stands as a painful wake-up call. Behind every message, every profile, every smiling photo, there might be a lie. And when the lie becomes a weapon, the consequences can be irreversible. Renee is gone, but her name echoes through the halls of reform. Her story continues to ignite conversations around emotional coercion, psychological control, and the urgent need for legislation to keep pace with modern abuse. Because no one should suffer in silence, and no one should be destroyed by a friend hiding behind a screen. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.